When you are attaching two pieces of clay together, you want to slip and score. To do an attachment on something like this, I find it easiest to kind of trace around where I want to attach this piece. And that way I know exactly where to score and I'm not getting my score marks outside of this area. You could use a wood tool to score or a needle tool. I don't love using a needle tool. Or you could use a sculpture tool or a sgraffito tool. You could try using a fork, but for something like this, it's a small area and it doesn't give you as much control. When you score, you want to rough up both sides. I like to think of this as Velcro. You need this clay to have some texture to it so that it can grab this other side. So you should feel some of the texture. If you score and it's just smooth like this isn't going to give you anything to grab onto. So make sure both sides are roughed up. So that your clay can grab on to each other. And then you just need a tiny bit of slip. Make sure to not overdo it on your slip. You don't want your slip oozing out of this seam. So even that, I got a little bit too much. Sometimes it's helpful to go back and score over your slip. And then seal this on, press firmly but gently. Don't push on this to alter the shape. And then smooth out your seam with a wood tool. You can also use your wood tool at this longer edge and press down and kind of away so that you have this seamless transition between the two pieces of clay. But you don't want to always use the tip because that will leave that kind of indentation around the piece. To slip and score something like this, if I'm making a cylinder or something, then you want to also score both pieces really well. So again, if I just score a little bit, and I have very fine kind of delicate lines, I'm not going to be giving my clay anything to really grab onto. Make sure when you're handling your clay, you're not pinching. You don't want to alter the shape of your clay. And then, again, you want to push this firmly but gently. Don't pinch on your seam. I'm pushing firmly but gently. And then I'm going to use my finger to smooth over the seam. And I'm smoothing this direction. And then on this section, I'm going to smooth this direction. So I'm smoothing this way. It's also helpful to use your wood tool to kind of smooth and compress. If you had something that's curved, then support kind of the outside and then use your finger to smooth that out. You could also use the curved side of your wood tool. Keep your tools clean so that you're not going to get any bone dry pieces of clay on your fresh piece of clay. Since I bent this, now I have this kind of seam that I really want to go in and smooth. If this is a problem and I still have that cracking, what you can do is, I call this caulking your seam. So make a tiny coil and just lightly score over your seam. Because this is really soft, I don't need any slip. And I'm just going to kind of gently push this coil into the seam. And then, just like I smoothed it out, I'm going to blend with the pads of my fingers going in two different directions. After I have that attached, I want to kind of compress the seam. So I like to compress with either the end of a wood tool, or if this were bigger, this card would work really well. Because this is kind of a small demonstration, this is more challenging to do. But I'm kind of compressing that seam with the back of my wood tool. And now that is really strong. Also be sure when you add that coil that it is still the same width as the rest of your slab. So really compress on that and blend it in so you don't have a bump.